I'm not going to say thank God it's Monday because they never thank God that it's Monday.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Okay, nobody cares anything I say.
No, I didn't say that. I just
no.
Nobody's happy that it's Monday. Nobody cares if we say thank God it's Monday. Nobody cares.
The World Series is tied 1-1. I've come to the conclusion that the NFL essentially, I'm not saying fixes games, but I'm saying the NFL makes sure that games stay close by calling stupid penalties or just simply by these teams being flawed. It's getting to the point where the NFL, and the Bills won this week, so this is not angst. It's such a badly run league. And, good teams used to be good teams that beat bad teams. And now good teams lose to bad teams because they're not so good. So anyway, enough of my diatribe.
I think there's some sense to that. And, even me as a Jet fan, like people expect me to say, oh, that was a horrible win. Like I say, it was a horrible win because they won. It was bad weather.
A win's a win.
I get the pluses and minuses of it all, but you know what? They still have a good defense and Wilson still did not hurt them to the point where they lost. So I'm fine with it, but I'm actually going to talk about baseball for a minute. I know everybody loves when I talk about baseball, so I'm especially smiling over that. So Craig Counsell is the hot manager out there right now, and I had written on Full Press that the teams like the Mets, Guardians, and Padres, and Brewers were the leading candidates. Now, the word out there is kind of like, hey, Dave Roberts is making like a little over 4. He's the top guy, and so the Brewers figure they'll pay him 4, right? And I'm thinking, this is an opportunity for Stephen Cohen to kind of just, the Guardians are never going to pay the most. Right. And the Brewers are only going to match. So you're really in a poker game here where if you just pay the guy 4.5 or 5, everybody else is going to back out. And then it'll be up to Counsell if he feels like he could, move to the New York area with that extra $1 million a year that he would get over Milwaukee. Now, again, I always get a chuckle, like, Mike Hampton always, he talked about why he didn't go to the Mets, stayed in Colorado for the money because they had better school system, which is baloney because New York has great school systems. You can live in a lot of great places. Go ask any of the Islanders if they enjoy where they live. I'm sure Tavares still has a house there. I don't know if he sold it. Everybody.
He does. He's living. I mean, obviously he's living.
Of course. But it doesn't mean he doesn't have a summer place, Sure. And so I just look at it as an opportunity where he's the guy they probably need to get. And yeah, I would just, if I'm them, I'm paying 4.5 or 5 to get him. Yeah.
The problem is, and I don't know if this is true or not. It's just this number has been floated, because I listen to New York radio a lot. The number that has been floated is 10 million, which, it's like, okay, it's nothing to Stephen Cohen because, he's got billions, but other teams in the league would be massively pissed off because the highest paid manager, I know this from listening to the show, the highest paid manager in Major League history was Joe Torre. I think he made $8 million in like the years at or following the World Series, getting into the World Series, and that's justified.
He has championships. Counsell doesn't even have a championship.
Yeah, he had 4 championships and 6 World Series appearances in a span of 7 years or 8 years. So that's justified. Counsell's a good manager, and he's from Milwaukee, and they say, all things being equal, if the Brewers ponied up even close to what the Mets or one of these other teams are offering, he'll stay in Milwaukee. But if he gets blown away, I'll transfer my kids to a different high school for $5.5 million extra a year. I'll take it.
I don't think they'll go 5.5 extra, but I think if he says, I'll come for 7, I think I'd still do it.
And just in the chat, Andrew Perry says, will Mad Dog retire? No, he's not retiring. Russ, you explained it. He talked to Howard Stern, and Howard Stern basically thought up a punishment.
The punishment was he was going to wear an Arizona Diamondbacks bikini and walk down the street in New York and say, I'm a liar and a dope. And he wanted him to say a different word with a D, but Russo didn't want to do that. And then today it was told through Russo's people to Howard Stern, not even through a phone call from Chris, that he's not going to even do that now. Okay. So he's not walking down the street. He's not doing anything. He's going to chalk it up for saying something stupid.
Honestly, the people who would be punished by him wearing an Arizona Diamondbacks bikini are the people who could see in the area where he's walking, because I wouldn't want to see him.
He said he's got a wife and a family, and he's a Major League Baseball employee. Well, I got to tell you something. If I did something stupid like that, my wife would probably say, "Go ahead and do it, because you should do it, because you're a moron for saying it."
Right.
And Chris is an idiot for saying that. Like,
right.
I don't know why. I don't understand why he thought that wasn't going to be a big deal. He knows he has to have an idea of where his place is in the sports world. And the fact that he's on all those MLB shows, he has his own channel on Sirius, and he's on ESPN. Like, come on. It was ridiculous. He shouldn't have done it. And now this is something that is going to follow him a little bit, because there are going to be wise guy fans that constantly bring this up. This is different, too. Like, everybody was like, well, Tom Brady retired, then he unretired. It's a little different, though. When you're an older athlete, that's one thing. Tom Brady didn't sort of say, I'm going to stake my reputation on the fact that if these guys win the next 2 games, I'm going to retire. You know what I mean? He just said, hey, I think I'm going to retire, and then he came back because he felt good enough. When you do what Russo did, he was kind of staking his reputation on it. Don't you think so, Mike?
Yeah. Oh no, definitely. I think he was saying it basically as like, I know, and he knows baseball. I've listened to him for years. It's a lock, like, oh, this team will not. And, he should know in baseball, as in every other sport, the impossible sometimes happens. So, you don't stake your reputation or your career on the fate of
2 ball games.
2 ball games. No, I'm not doing it. And I don't have much
I wouldn't do it either. And what the hell do I have?
Yeah. Okay. Hi.
Hi. Yeah. Thank you guys for my late. I was just doing some yard work and broke my tooth in half, actually. So I got a broken tooth.
Okay. Did you hit yourself with the handle of the rake or something?
How
did you?
I don't want to explain what happened.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
If I explain what happened, it would just be absolutely ridiculous. I am that clumsy and that stupid.
I've done some dumb things in the yard where I had a post hole digger and it hit me in the head. My parents and my father-in-law were helping me build the fence, and that was it. I was concussed. I couldn't help build the fence after that.
Yeah.
Luckily, I dug most of the posts, but that happened to me, so I get it.
Well, I probably have that. I've got an ice thing here. So I'm like. They probably have something along those lines, the greatest I've done in the yard was this. So a friend of mine did a lot of weeds. A friend of mine had this idea. He's like, you know what I have is I have basically like a fire gun, like a thing that shoots like a flamethrower that shoots.
Okay.
That sounds safe.
You attach it just to a propane tank and you hold it in your hand. And go, so he's like, it works incredibly well in the weeds. It's like, because you burn the weeds away and then they'll never grow back. They'll never grow back. You just burn out. And it's fun. And it's fun too. You feel like you're like an Avenger. So I go out there and I'm doing but I did it too close to the bush that was next to it. The bush next to it just starts going.
Oh God.
Meanwhile, which is right next to the house, that bush. Okay. So this is like really like oh, this is fantastic. So
I was to the burning bush.
I was smart enough to like know that I was stupid enough that I would make some kind of dumb mistake like this. So I had like with me a fire hose right next to me. I had a hose right next to me that was like ready to go at any moment, with his nozzle on it. So I put out the fire, but as I'm putting out the fire, I'm like the flamethrower. I'm like pushing it. I'm like forgot to turn the flamethrower up right. So drop the flamethrower on the ground. So it starts shooting into the other side of the other grass. And I'm like, oh God, it was really just one of those moments when I could have really easily taken myself up.
We're glad you're okay. Other than that,
yes.
I'm I might take shorter shifts, but I'm here.
The stupidest thing I ever did in the yard, and I'll just be brief. Is I was trying to trim a rather tall bush with a hedge trimmer. The trimmer that goes, that has a little oscillating, and this thing I had to get up on a ladder, to cut like the branches of this bush that were further away. And at the very end, I'm swinging the hedge trimmer with one arm to cut and I swung too far and hit my right hand with the hedge trimmer and cut one of my fingers rather deeply.
That's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah. So stitches is wonderful.
Yeah, I won't even use the hedge trimmer. I won't. I admit it. I use the old-fashioned one. That's it.
We have a tree that's died on our front yard. So this is the last of yard talk. But we have it's died, so we have to pull the branch.
Just light it on fire.
Yeah, I thought about that. No, it's really big. So I had a tree guy come out and look at it, and he's like, "Yeah, it'll be about $1,100." So I'm like, "Oh my God!"
It's always $1,000. It's $1,000 no matter what.
I'm not going to repeat what Chris Plaza said in the chat, but you have a dirty mind, Chris. So let's start the show.
Right. All right. Here we go. Hockey World. It is Monday, October 30th, 2023.
I'm Michael Agello, and Chris, it wasn't Taylor Swift's.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund, and you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And man, my mouth hurts. And it's now it's swollen up to the point where, when I chew, I bite down on my cheek.
Now you look like Thurman.
I don't know, man. Right, just going to the dentist. I think I have to go to the dentist. I can't. This is not going to be something that's going to last. So I get a call in the middle of the show that says the dentist is ready for me. I might, but I'll be okay. All right. Unfortunately, I think we have to start with this tragic news of the weekend. Which is what everybody's talking about. This poor hockey player, dying from having his neck slashed.
I mean, I'll just say this. I heard about it. I heard about it, and I don't want to watch the video. And I don't think anybody.
No, I don't recommend that it gets passed around either.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's on. I don't know if it's on social media or not.
It is.
But I don't want to see it because I lived through Clint Malarchuk. I saw. I wasn't at the game. Friends were at the game. I saw it many times on TV. It was repeated often when it happened, and everybody knows the story. If the Sabres trainer, who was a medic, a former Vietnam medic, had he not jumped on the ice and basically put his finger on Malarchuk's carotid, he would have died on the ice. And Richard Zednik, I think that was in Buffalo too, that he got a gate cut in his neck. So it's, I mean, I understand, and I've heard a lot of talk about it this morning, and I want to get everybody else's opinion. I know the NHL can't make certain equipment mandatory, but you really have to be, and I don't know how comfortable or uncomfortable it is, but honestly, you've had 2 near deaths and 1 near death. You put the Kevlar neck thing on, and that would rule that would have probably saved him.
Yeah, I'm going to wear it. The only other thing is, and I can't comment on it because I didn't see it. Now people are wondering, did this guy intentionally kick him? Did this guy kick him, but he didn't mean to get him in the neck? Like, there's these things going around, Eck. If you look on Twitter from former players and me, I would rather wait and to see what the police do about it, because I just feel like there's so much speculation. And right now his family's in pain, and I don't want to speculate. So I'm not gonna. But I do agree with Mike. I saw that Seth Appert was instructing his team in Rochester to wear them, and I agree with him. And I think the NHL should do too.
Yeah, the Providence Bruins were, and then they do in Hockey Canada and women's hockey, they all wear them, in juniors and stuff like that. I just think, I saw the Malarchuk thing when I was a kid too. And, I put one on from that point on as a goalie, and I've always worn one. They're not that uncomfortable. They're hot. And I think the big thing is they're hot to wear them. It's like, wearing a turtleneck kind of like, so you get that kind of feeling. If you're skating around in a hot rink or whatever, it's going to be hot on you. But it's such an obvious thing with the speed of the game happening now and how fast as everything's happening. This is going to happen more and more and more. And it's just,
it's not even the speed of the game, Ak. It's the fact that, and like, I've seen them up close, but we know with the replaceable blades that these NHL players are using, basically you pop a blade out, you pop a brand new blade in. I've seen them up close. They are, to say they're razor sharp is not an exaggeration. Yeah. And it's like, so like, if somebody gets knocked down and somebody's foot gets swung up in the air. I mean, I remember Dion Phaneuf getting cut. I think it was on his thigh, through the pants.
through the pants and through the socks. Yeah,
Right.
just like, I mean, these are ridiculously sharp blades, and I mean, they've always been sharper, like you say. I think because the disposable ones now, they're sharper, but still because they don't have to worry about them lasting or anything longevity wise. So I think this is, I mean, it's just a sin. It's terrible. I really feel awful for his family and the kid who did it, and the kid who actually escaped it. That's going to affect obviously the rest of his life too. So I think this is one of those things the NHL has to step up on a little bit and make an example, because listen, I mean, the NHL players, I know they're not going to want to do this because they don't like, there's some out there that wouldn't wear helmets if they didn't have to right now,
Right,
But
that's true. Sometimes you have to you have to put some rules in place, regardless if your constituency agrees with it or not, for their own safety.
Yeah, you do, and what that does is if kids see the NHL players wearing the neck guards, they'll wear the neck guards too. It plays down into the whole thing. It just, they're setting an example for the rest of the hockey world, and they need to remember that.
Look, I'll give you an example. Again, I probably said this before. My wife used to work for a place called Gift of Life, and a lot of the people who ended up being donors were motorcycle riders that didn't have helmets. Mm-hmm. Now, just because your state, like Pennsylvania, doesn't require you to wear a helmet, doesn't mean you shouldn't. You should.
No. Anything the state of Pennsylvania does, you shouldn't really listen to. I mean, it's it's the craziest thing in the world. I mean, having grown up in New Jersey, buy beer and alcohol in the same place. The alcohol is sold to you by the state itself. They have state stores.
The opposite of New Jersey.
I know, and in New Jersey, you have alcohol stores. In Pennsylvania, you have state stores. In New Jersey, when you want to get your license, you go to a Department of Motor Vehicles, hellhole, that kind of thing. But then in Pennsylvania, you go to somebody's house, it's sold to you by a personal person. It's it's everything in this state. It's completely different, and it's nuts. So I just think that we need to consider the safety, and it's just unbelievable. I feel bad for this guy, and I know a lot of the Penguins players. Everybody was very upset about it. It's very tough. It's a very tough spot. I've brought one thing when it's kind of a little morbid, but not really. I mean, it's still worth saying. But you guys are knocked out to the point where you were afraid that they were not alive. I've seen that a couple times, twice, two events I went to. Both times the players survived, but that feeling in the building of it, is that player alive, is a really scary thing.
Well, I had that with baseball. I was at a Met Yankee game, and Roger Clemens beamed Mike Piazza, and ESPN will still play that sound. I don't know why. It's a sickening sound. We were 5 rows off the field, and Piazza went down. They took him right off with a stretcher, and his family was sitting right in front of me, and they all cleared out right away. And we were really worried, oh my God, is this guy, still alive?
I think the only reason that they show it is because in the end he was okay, but still,
maybe, yeah. But that sound still gets me. If I hear that sound, it's awful.
Yeah, you don't see the Dickie Thon bean from Mike Torres, because that almost ended his career. Basically, right. He was never the same. That was an all-star shortstop, and he was never the same after that. Or Tony Conigliaro. I don't know if there's
hockey. There were 2 instances that I remember in hockey. Where one was Peter Svoboda being knocked out by a flyer when Peter Svoboda was on Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, okay.
I was at the game. I don't know if you guys remember that or not, but
I don't.
I'm sure Canadian fans out there remember.
I don't remember that. I do remember Normand Levier, the Bruins player. This was in the early '80s. I'm pretty sure he had a stroke on the ice, or he was, he was something. It was some sort of event that he had, or either that or he got slammed into the boards. It wasn't like a Travis Roy situation. I'll look it up, but I remember that because it was on Hockey Night. The game was on Hockey Night in Canada, and he was never the same.
Right. There was also a very famous. I was in Madison Square Garden for this one. A Rangers Flyers fight preseason where I forget who it was, but this wasn't that long ago. Gosh, man, my memory's bad. But where one of the Flyers players knocked out a Ranger guy, and I thought he'd killed him. I thought because I was sitting close to the press is close to the ice there where it is, and that led me to a bunch of blogs still to this day that I think hockey should be banned, and I know that that's a popular thing, but I just I'm wondering if that guy was actually killed in that moment, clarity of this whole debate about hockey fights being banned.
Well, what we have seen, and we've all seen this in games, is where somebody sort of gets hit in the head or something with an elbow or something, and they're instantly knocked out before they even hit the ice.
Yeah, Levier got hurt in a game against Vancouver, and he was diagnosed with a brain aneurysm. That's what it was.
But like anytime you see a guy go out on his feet before he hits the ice, I am instantly worried. I admit it.
Yes.
This was the one. The game
Fedoruk. I covered that game, I think.
Yep, I was at that. That was the game when I thought literally that this guy beat, and it was so horrible. I mean, I forget who it was that he hit, but
I don't know. Was it Ryan Holwig? I don't remember who it was.
Oh no, Ryan Holwig.
Like that, I think.
Ryan Holwig was the one that Chris Simon baseball swinged across.
No, I know that, but that's why I'm wondering if Fedoruk did it to him too. Holwig, wasn't everybody's best friend.
No, he
would drive guys through the boards.
Boy, he could take a punch and a stick and everything else. Goodness.
I'm changing my internet for a second, guys. 1 second.
Yeah. I was gonna say you're shuddering a bit. While X doing that, why don't we talk about the Heritage Classic? Because I admit I didn't watch it because I'm sort of nonplussed now about these sort of event games. I did watch the highlights, and it's visually very interesting. It's just not. I mean, maybe for the people who are in the city that
they loved it.
They loved it, but
not everybody watches it on TV. They don't.
Yeah. I think the one that was the most visually pleasing, besides the one in the big house, Detroit, Toronto, was the one in Lake Tahoe. Other than that,
they just had so many ice issues. I remember Carter Hart couldn't even see the puck after a while. Right. That was the Lake Tahoe because nobody was there. Like a lot of people, that was during the pandemic. That was weird. But this one, I admit, I didn't watch it, but I saw some things, pictures and other things, and I was happy that the weather was much warmer. But yeah, I wasn't juiced up for this game, like this matchup. So because of that, I watched other things. I admit it.
Yeah. So I mean, again, it's I understand why they do it. It's also something that the league makes money on. I get that. That's
McDavid played for it, so I was happy for the Oilers fans.
I was happy for CBC and TBS because had he not played, it would have been a dog. To use my old phrase, to quote Bill Waters, it would be a dog's breakfast. It would just. Right. I mean, I swear to God, they were like genuflecting on Saturday when they were interviewing McDavid, like because in between before the Leaf Nashville game, or during the intermission, they were interviewing McDavid, and it was like, oh,
was that when he was wearing his Miners uniform?
Is that what it was? I don't.
Yeah, that's what those look like. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew he wasn't wearing his Edmonton jersey. He was wearing something else. But
it looked like they were wearing Miners stuff, like the vests and stuff. But I will say, look, Evander Kane shot a video saying how much fun it was, and that caught me by surprise. I've never seen him do anything like that. But I will say, a lot of times with those big games, that could propel them a little bit. Like a lot of times. That's like winning more than one game, like especially when you're the home team. If you win that game, you feel pretty good about yourself and you get a few days off. And we'll see if that straightens them out or not.
Yeah, I think it's going to take a lot more than that. But I mean, you have to.
Well, of course, you think that. But.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you're grasping at straw, and they should grasp at straws because right now, that organization is in a deep.
They're in trouble.
They're really in trouble. I mean, Woodcroft. There's talk about him getting fired, and I mean, I get it, but there's not a good team. They have really good players, but they're not a good team. They're not a complete team. And I will continue to say that. And I have to say the same thing about Calgary right now. I know that I was listening to the 32 Thoughts broadcast or the podcast, and they were talking about the state of the Flames. And, the Flames got Backlund signed. There's a lot of talk. There's been a lot of talk recently about them getting Hanifin re-signed. And they're talking to Lindholm. But you have to consider the fact that right now they're not having a lot of success with all these guys. And do you really want to lock yourself up long-term with a team that is just not good?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, teams almost have no choice but to lock some of these guys up because they feel like if they don't, they're not going to get fans to show up for games. Plus the cap's going up. So that's the other reason why some are locking up guys, whether it's at the right time or not. I agree. Some of these things are not at the right time, Mike, but sometimes you have to just make these decisions anyhow. So, it is what it is.
Yeah. Now, Kevin Weeks, just sort of a little bit of breaking news here. And Kevin Weeks, usually when he posts something that's sort of breaking news or keep an eye on, it usually, it's pretty accurate, and he's getting some info from, his league sources. He says, I'm told the Florida Panthers are actively working to re-sign 2 of their top 4 defensemen that helped them reach the Stanley Cup final in Montour and Forsling. Both Gustav Forsling and Brandon Montour are UFAs at the end of the year.
That's fair.
They have a lot of money coming off the books. I mean, they're after this year, actually, they're in really good shape cap-wise. So, Montour, I think, is 29. Forsling, I think he's in his late 20s.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
As long as you don't sign them for like 8 years. And
if you do 5 years on both, that's good. Even if you do 6, maybe Montour gets 7 just because he had such an outrageous year last year. But they don't have a lot of options, Mike, because they're not loaded with young defensemen just waiting to come into their lineup either.
No, they don't. I mean, they've got Ekblad. They lost Gudas, and Gudas was a top 4 guy for them. Yep. They need to sign Forsling. They need to sign Montour. I think they'd be in sort of deep straits when it comes to their defensive situation. And right now, like defensemen are more valuable than, it's centers and defensemen. If it's top 4 defensemen, it's just tough to get them.
Just to answer Dan B, they know for sure now that the cap's going up. Now, whether it goes up to the amount that they've said, that's the question. But it's going to probably go up $4 million.
Yeah, they think it's going to be about $4 million, and then maybe $4 million after that. But, the thing is for teams like, say, Toronto, their problem is that the cap is not going up enough. They have overlapping situations. They have Matthews and Nylander. And they signed Matthews. He's going to be making $13.25 million. Nylander is a UFA at the end of the year. He might sign a new deal. Problem is that Marner and Tavares have 1 year left in their deal. So, everybody thinks that Tavares is going to end up taking a lesser deal when his deal is up.
He will.
I think he will, but Marner's not.
No.
But the thing is, there's a year overlapping. So in that year overlapping, you're going to have 4 players making over $10 million if they pay Nylander.
You better win a cup before that, because otherwise,
that's the problem. That's the problem right now. Their defense is adequate at best, and they lost Jake McCabe on Thursday, and everybody thought they had lost Timothy Liljegren. He practiced today. So, but that's how, they lost Connor Timmins during the preseason. They lost McCabe. So they're playing like William Lagesson on defense and, Simon Benoit. Stanley Cup winning teams don't have those guys playing on their team. So
no, the regular season, sometimes you have those guys filling in. We should mention that it seemed like it was on Instagram that just out of the blue, Joe Thornton's like, hey, I retired, in case you were wondering.
Yeah, like
he still has that beard. That's the part I don't get, because I told you in my household I would not be allowed to have a beard like that ever. Even if I made $10 million a year, it would be a no.
Well, if I was Joe Thornton and I was anywhere near Eck and that flamethrower that he has, I'd be a little scared.
That bird, yeah, that beard could go up. But listen, Joe is a great player.
Yes, I think he's a Hall of Famer.
He's a Hall of Famer, although it was contentious when he left Boston. And it'll be interesting to see if he's ever going to go back to Boston, like just even for, like if they have a Joe Thornton night. It'll be interesting.
I doubt they will.
I know, but right? It's a weird thing. Like he was their best player. He was a star player for them, and things just went bad with the fan base.
Well, the funny thing is, because they were talking about this, and I didn't know this, but apparently the year he was traded to San Jose, and everybody knows the fact that apparently the talk between San Jose and the Bruins, nobody else knew about it in terms of like, had he been shopped, and they sent out the email to all the general managers that, you know, the Bruins probably could have gotten a lot better return for Joe Thornton than they did from San Jose. But apparently when Mike Keenan was in Florida, he offered Roberto Luongo to Boston for Joe Thornton. And apparently the talks with San Jose were too far along. And so it ended up not happening. But, you know, it
would have been a hell of a trade.
Yeah, just think of this. I mean, you know, had the Bruins acquired Roberto Luongo, I mean, you know,
was that after he signed that long deal or before?
I don't know. I
don't know either. That's what I'm trying to figure out the timeline of that.
This is before he was traded to Vancouver. So, you know, had it been Vancouver and Boston in that 2011 Stanley Cup final, Luongo would have been on the Bruins and not on the Canucks.
Right. Yeah, then Tim Thomas who knows where he would be.
So, you know, some games from the weekend, rebooting his computer. Some games on the weekend. I was at the Colorado Buffalo game, and there was a scare there. Okay, after the game was sort of like, you know, diffused, but there was a scare in the second period when Cale Makar went into the boards awkwardly after being tripped.
That's what I was going to ask.
By Kyle Okposo. It wasn't Okposo was going after Makar's stick to lift it, and Makar was going he was going pretty much at full speed, but then he slowed down almost to initiate contact or almost to sort of protect himself. And in that instant, Okposo's stick made contact, and he went awkwardly into the boards and limped to the dressing room. Didn't come back for the rest of the second period, and you know, I didn't see him to start the third, and then he came on and he was fine. And he looked fine. And after the game, I guess Okposo talked to Makar and explained what happened. And there was
yeah, he's not a malicious guy.
No, Okposo is not that type of guy. I mean, in the interim, there was no penalty called on Okposo.
Yeah, there should have been.
And there should have been at least a minor. And Nathan MacKinnon lost his mind apparently and got called for a 2 and a 10.
Yeah, see, that's, you know, again, you kind of wished they would have given him the 2 minute and said, all right, let's review this too in case it's more. And then MacKinnon probably wouldn't have said a word. But because they didn't really do anything about it, It's hard to blame MacKinnon on this one.
No, but and the funny thing is that they gave him a 2 and a 10, and I don't know, you know, I didn't see him mouth off at the official, but obviously if he gave him a 10-minute misconduct, I'm sure there were some expletives that were uttered.
Yeah.
After that, they gave a penalty to Jordan Greenway almost right away.
Yeah.
To sort of balance it out.
Right.
Go ahead, Ek.
Sorry, I'm back. This is the last.
Don't be sorry that you're back. It's fine.
This is the last time. I am sorry. I mean, you guys are all sorry. I'm back. I'm sure. Yeah, this is the last time this computer is going to be used on this program officially.
Are you going to throw it out?
No, it turns out it's the modem.
Wow.
I ran an 80-foot cable.
Oh my God.
From my modem across the house during this period of time. So if anyone walks through the house right now, they're going to kill themselves. It's just like
I can tell you this much. I do know a little bit about electronics. The longer the feed, the worse the worse bandwidth is going to be because it's got to travel all that distance.
Yeah, I mean that's one of it's true, and but it just definitely seems to be better than my modem right now. So
oh God, maybe upgrade.
It seems to be working right now. I'm on the best thing I can be. I'm ready to dump Verizon altogether, man. I'm paying ridiculous amounts of money for this.
I have Verizon too. Do you have the white tower?
Yeah,
you do. Wow,
I do, and I have Fios and everything. But I think I'm going to T-Mobile. I'm just going to go I'm going to go $40 a month. It's like it saved me a couple $100. Anyway, Bruce, stop that. We don't need to talk about this. What were you guys discussing? I'm sorry, we
discussed just MacKinnon getting kicked out of the game yesterday.
Yeah. This is what I like about honestly. You know, I mean, I've said before. I think Nathan MacKinnon is underrated as like a tough guy. Like he's really
no. This was he was mad. He was just mad.
he mouthed
just make it out. Okay, so I didn't see it, but
he mouthed
attitude.
he mouthed off at the officials because Makar had been run into the boards, at least it appeared to be run into the boards by Kyle Poso, and there was not even a minor penalty, and he lost his shit is what happened. And I don't blame him. It's like, I mean, you're a Norris Trophy winning defenseman. You don't know whether he just torn an ACL or an Achilles, and you didn't even get a 2-minute minor for it. What the hell?
You do kind of wish at that point, like Toronto would intervene and say, look, there's a guy into the boards here. We should look at this.
Yeah, absolutely. They should. And and if I mean, I didn't see the play, but there's that whole thing. It's Makar and McKinnon sticking up for him. I'm in general, I'm a much bigger McKinnon fan than I am now. Than I was when he first came in the league. I'll say that. I don't know. I really, in my
what the hell was that?
This is like Max Headroom, man.
Oh my God.
He's lost it.
He's frozen.
Yeah.
We're not gonna. What the hell is going on here? I'm not, I don't know if he even knows that he's on he's right now he's frozen and he's making like Jurassic Park noises. So.
Yeah. So, all right. So there is one other thing. GSM has a good point. Jonathan Drouin going to play with Nathan McKinnon again. Doesn't matter.
Okay. Wait, there he is. Okay. Can you hear us?
Yes.
We took you off there for a second because we thought that we were watching Jurassic Park 4.
I mean, people up in space have better connections.
Okay.
NASA.
Well, we would hope they would have better connections. They spend billions of dollars.
I know. We should bring up that Morgan Frost is actually playing tonight. I'll be covering that game. Now, while John Tortorella admitted, yes, it's a long time for him to be out, he'll take it into account. But it doesn't mean if he has a bad game, he's going to take it into account and play him the next game. I just feel like, he's waited so long, it would be a minor miracle for Frost to look great. I don't think at this point it has anything to do with how much he wants to play and what switch you may have pulled on him. Because when you don't play for 6 games, it's a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's unfair. Okay, first of all, if this was what you had in mind for Morgan Frost during the year when it wasn't a holdout situation, he was an RFA. I think he was a 10.2 RFA. If this is what you had in mind, then you should have traded him because to sign somebody for over $2 million to say the guy that we talked to Bill Meltzer a couple of weeks ago, and he was the highest scoring player in the second half for the Flyers. And, Tortorella had no issues with him. He actually liked the way he played last year. To do this is crap. And it's like, honestly, either play the guy or trade the guy. And, I don't know whether I haven't talked to him. I don't know whether, what his feelings are about Philadelphia. I think he likes the organization.
No, he likes it in Philly. We saw that, when it was opening night and they showed him, he did not look happy that he wasn't in the starting lineup. And we'll see. We'll see tonight how he does. We'll see what he says after the game. I mean, he's a professional, but he's going to play his best, but he still could be rusty. And that's all I'm saying is that's the hard part for him because, he's getting graded a lot harder than other players on that team. I will say that.
Just because it's a name and we know him from the World Junior and being a first-round pick of the New York Islanders. The Toronto Marlies gave a PTO to Kiefer Bellows.
Okay.
Kiefer Bellows played apparently for John Gruden, the current Marlies coach.
And he's a good coach.
Yeah, he's a good coach, and the Marlies are doing pretty well this year. And
he's one of those up-and-coming coaches, by the way.
Yeah, I just don't know whether this is I know the guy and let's give him a chance, or there's something still there, or
I think it's hey, I think I could unlock some of what I used to get out of him because there are times when Kiefer Bellows, when he puts it together, can look really good. But he hasn't been able to put it all together. So maybe I don't want to say he stinks, Andrew, because I don't believe that.
Yeah.
But I just believe that, under the right circumstances, a little more confidence, he still could do something. But, he's not going to be a star player in the league. No.
We'll take some questions from the chat before we end the show. I don't think we're going to get Eck back. I
think the powers that be it's just too much.
I think either he got a call from the dentist or he got tangled up in his 80-foot
cord
Ethernet cable or something. So, yes, Bellows' dad was very decent. He was a really good player for Minnesota back in the 80s.
He wasn't a superstar either, but first overall pick. So
no, he wasn't first overall.
No, he was top 10 though, wasn't he?
He was top 2 or 3.
Oh, you know what? I'm getting him mixed up with the agent.
Oh, Brian Lawton.
Lawton was the first one.
And Modano too.
But Bellows was a good player. He was Brian Bellows.
Let's see here. GSM Ottawa should trade Pinto to Phil. Okay. Pinto's not getting traded. Oh, wait, we may have. Oh boy.
Hey.
Hi.
Okay, is the Fox under the deck?
Yes, this is the deck back there. That's the hockey rink back there. You can see it back there.
The hockey rink. Here's
the thing that's bad, Ek. This is a better connection than what you had inside.
I know. It's outside. It's my iPad. That's like that's like a huge iMac. It's everything's like, this is ridiculous. I know. It's a way better connection. So I'm ditching that computer. It's the computer, obviously.
All right. Well, let's.
I feel bad. Like looking at the hockey rink, it's kind of like looking at Sarajevo now. 30 years after the Olympics or 40 years after the Olympics.
It'll look great in a couple months, man. When the ice comes.
109 years after Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated.
Well, my kids have actually did these giant tents. You see these big tents?
Oh yeah.
So my kids each have their own glamping tent kind of outside. They play. They play with. They're 21, 18. They're 21 and 18 years old, but they both love their tents still when their friends come over. It's like cool hanging. So that's what's out there. Anyway, let's get back to the hockey. What the hell were you guys talking about? Now, when I came back in.
When you came back, we were talking about how it doesn't matter that Jonathan Drouin was reunited with Nathan McKinnon. He's not going to do anything. Kiefer Bellows just got picked up by the Marlies. They signed him. Morgan Frost is playing tonight.
Playing tonight against Carolina.
Yes, after 6 games. And it's kind of tough because even though John admitted, yes, he may not be his best, he's going to keep that in consideration. But again, I just feel like he's getting graded so much harder than most other guys on the team that he's almost expected to have this great game. And it's hard when you don't play for 6 games.
And I was trying to think for a second of a player that Tortorella had that he did this to, that it benefited.
That he benefited. Oh.
Like, that like a player like this that he decided to put, they put in doghouse for a while and he came back and had like a brilliant NHL career.
Well, not a brilliant career, but how about Dubinsky?
Yeah, Dubinsky, like he would get benched for 2 or 3 games, and he definitely came back and would run through a wall for Torts.
Right.
But I also think Torts may have shortened Dubinsky's career too with the way he played.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. I mean, what are other players that he's had that he's done this to?
Gaborik.
Gaborik, yeah. I mean, Gaborik had a great
work out. They had to get
he
rid
had a
of
great
him.
career though.
Yeah,
pretty good career.
He won a cup.
Gaborik's career.
Go ahead.
What
would you say about Gaborik's career? Like, you call it a success? I mean, I think it's pretty good.
It's a success. It just wasn't what it could have been. He's like one of those guys that had all the tools. Not a Hall of Famer, but when he had good years, he had really good years. He had some great years, even with the Rangers, and then even again with the Kings. Even when you counted Gaborik out, he would still be able to do it. So I would say he's a star player, but just not a superstar, and he was supposed to be a superstar.
Yeah, and I don't think it had much to do with Torch, like around the right.
No.
Just think of this. No. He was a scorer playing for the 2 most restricted defensive coaches in the history of the league, in Jacques Lemaire and Tortorella.
Yeah.
He still scored 50 goals with Jacques Lemaire, right?
Yeah.
He was better under Jacques Lemaire, which is the funny thing. Like that, that it was, at least there were moments when he really did look like he was going to fulfill that promise, right? That he had. So, Russ,
can we talk about the Rangers, because they're just playing phenomenal right now, and like everything. I know that you had some reservations about what they were going to be under Peter Laviolette, but right now things just seem to be going swimmingly.
Yeah, and this is what happens with Laviolette. But my reservations probably move beyond this year. But right now things look good because he's given the younger players a chance and opportunity. He's getting great play out of Fox. He's even getting better play out of Shesterkin. We all know Shesterkin was really good last year, but he wasn't as good as the year before. Now he was. I mean, everybody saw that overtime save. It was incredible.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I think Laviolette knows how to fire up the guys, but he also knows how to just let them. I don't know if someone's snoring now. I don't know what that is.
So that is I'm really happy that my neighbors decided to
That's
do
the
this
fox.
to saw wood.
He's sawing wood.
Yeah, so he's
Is he using a flamethrower?
okay. I'm just doing a podcast. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Thanks. Yeah. I can't see him. He's on the other side of the fence, but
that's funny.
We heard that.
I would just say that right now what you're seeing with Laviolette is he knows how to leave players alone offensively, like Panarin, and getting Panarin to spark Lafreniere was good. Yeah, Blake Wheeler's not looking so good at the moment. That's okay. I mean, he'll get through the season. Maybe he'll be a playoff, guy. But yeah, right now offensively things look really good. Defensively, I don't know if they're any better, but that's all right now.
And Morgan Frost is on the bench. Why is he on the bench? Probably for defensive purposes, right? Because he's not playing well defensively.
No,
not Morgan Frost. Who are you talking about?
No, Morgan Frost. Morgan Frost. I'm sorry. Go back to Morgan Frost.
Well, no, that's the problem. That's the thing, Eck. We don't know the reason why they sat Morgan Frost. We talked to Bill.
We don't know the reason. Yeah, Bill doesn't know.
And like the entire team played badly against Columbus, and then Morgan Frost was the guy who sat out, and then there was no explanation. They just said,
one bad turnover for sure. That's it.
Yeah,
but other players have had turnovers too.
There are other players
still in the lineup. Like, here's the weird thing. Okay, this is the part where I think people have to understand the inequity sometimes that happens with Tortorella and the lineup right now.
Yeah.
I'm not against Tyson Foerster playing, but if you're telling me that, Frost couldn't get in and they couldn't move Lawton to the wing because Foster's playing too good, I would tell you you're a liar because he's only got a couple points. Tippett's playing okay, a little better lately. He's not playing great. Lawton doesn't even have a goal because for whatever reason they're forcing him to play center because we know he would rather not play center, but he's a good team guy and he's playing center. So what Torts did was the absolute easiest thing to do. He said, okay, I'm going to put Lawton at fourth line center, and we'll put Frost back in at second line center, and that's it. So he doesn't have to upset anything else on this team. And that's for a rebuilding team, I feel like, why are you picking the easiest path,
Yeah, they're playing it. No, it's very true. It's I talked to a GM the other day who said, of Torts, it's like, he's going to make them like Mike said, he's going to make them good. He's going to make them good enough to be not a bad team.
Yeah, they'll be picking 8th or 9th again.
They're picking 8th or 9th again. And guys but don't think for a second that guys aren't calling about Morgan Frost. Like that is somebody that
of course they are.
Other teams in the league are very interested in. Ottawa was interested in him. St. Louis was interested in him before. I really think that
the teams that should be interested in him because he's an offensive driver are teams like Boston because they need center help, or the Islanders because their offense sucks.
Right.
I mean, but do I think the Flyers are going to trade him inside their own division? Or probably not.
I don't think they care honestly right now.
But Jay understands this. Jay says Torts has his favorites, and he loves Forster's shot, and we all do. So based on the fact that nobody has a shot like that on a team, he is getting a longer leash. So Jay's right, but it doesn't mean that is the correct thing to do for a rebuilding team. Like if they sent Forster back, I would not be upset. I'd be like, okay, I get it. He's not showing what he should show, and you've got other guys to play. But
my thing with Frost, and not to harp on the point, but he's been out seeing him play when he plays with other skilled players, and he's actually one of those. He's one of those typical guys, and he and Giroux were pretty dynamic together, when they
were.
And when you see a guy who go out there and be dynamic with a guy at the skill level of Claude Giroux, you think to yourself, this guy is a skilled player, But if the Flyers aren't dripping with skilled.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, X. So now here's the debate I would have for you. Right now, Joel Farabee looks like he's as good as he was 2 years ago. That the neck is healed. I'm not going to say Couturier's healed yet because I have to see more. Same with Atkinson, but I think Farabee is. So now the question is, they have Farabee playing with Brink because he likes what he can do with Brink. Don't you think he could do a lot more with Morgan Frost than Bobby Brink?
I definitely do. I mean, obviously, I would put those three together. Actually, I would find. I mean, they have to be more creative than they're being. You know, I mean, put those three. I like Bobby Brink. You know, it seems to be some big shock that Bobby Brink is good around the organization, and it's not. It's kind of weird to me because I did expect him to be good. I didn't expect him to be, you know, superstar, but I did.
Right.
He was built like an NHL player. Like you knew he was going to be an NHL player.
Yeah, I think they're desperate to have him be good because he's the justification that we're smart that we made the deal that Montreal ended up taking Cole Caulfield. I think they're still invested in that makes them look okay. That we traded down and we got that extra second round pick and we drafted Bobby Brink, we drafted Cam York, but in the end, right. Bull, you're not right.
Man, yeah.
Now,
no, we're not right there.
Now, you posted something on the weekend about Nylander.
Yep.
And I wish you were right. I really do, because honestly,
Mike.
I know, and I know you're
what a backward compliment. I wish you were right.
No, I wish there was the wherewithal and the will of the Maple Leaf organization to trade him if they can't get him signed. But everything that is coming out right now is they're still negotiating with him. You know, he wants $10 million a year. I don't think they can afford that.
No, they're not going
They should trade him before the deadline, but he's playing so well right now that
they're not trading him this year.
They're not. Yeah, I mean, I sort of come over to where Russ is. It's like you're not okay.
And I'm not saying that's right. That was the gut feeling I had.
Yeah, but and as soon as the season started and he started playing well, then okay, can you get enough value for him to justify the loss of him and what he's doing in the regular season?
Right.
And right now, like arguably, he's their second best forward behind Matthews. He's not dominant, but he's playing consistently well. Now we know Nylander, and we know he'll have a lull because he always does. He'll have a 10-game. He'll have a 10-game brain fart where I always call it Dr. Nylander and Mr. Willie, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Dr. Nylander is always playing really good, and then Mr. Willie shows up and has his head up his rear end, and that happens. You know, now it's the Mr. Willie appearance.
Happens to a lot of guys, Mike.
What's that?
Yeah, that happens to a lot of guys with Mr. Willie, but yeah, I totally understand what you're saying.
Well, his name is Willie.
I know. Oh, that's right. His name's Willie.
Yeah, I'm leaving that alone for good reason.
No, but I know his name's Willie.
No, you know what? I'll say this. I mean, it's a tough spot, and I do understand Mike's side, and I do understand their side. And now, if you're the rest of the league, like, why would you give him your best offer for Nylander when you know he's probably going to be a free agent?
Unless you want to win this year.
Right.
And he's the piece that puts you over the top. The thing is, you know, his salary is fittable. It's under $7 million. So if you retained 50%, you know, I don't think the Leafs want to retain anything. It would have to be a hockey deal, and it would have to be with a team that thinks they can win the Stanley Cup. There are very few teams right now that can fit them or that would give up players like that. So that's why I don't know whether it's possible. If they were going to trade him, they needed to trade him over the summer. They didn't, and now
that was the mistake.
Well, they couldn't. They tried, and you know,
we don't know how hard they tried.
Right.
You know, I don't know how hard they tried either, but what I've heard is they tried pretty hard. And to me, the point is, you know, they knew it was better to trade him before the season. They knew that. It's not like a surprise.
I honestly think that they didn't. They may have tried, but I honestly don't think they tried very hard while Austin Matthews was not re-signed. Because once they got him re-signed, then they had him locked in for 4 years. You know what I'm saying? It's like if they had traded Nylander on July 1st, then that may have given Matthews pause on what the direction of the franchise was. And now I have him locked up. But the thing was, the window that you had to trade him was right after you signed Matthews.
Right.
They didn't.
Right, they didn't. But again, you know, there's many things out there working against them. First of all, everybody knows he wants $10 million. That's not an unknown thing. So every other team's looking at it like, wow, that's way too much to pay for him, even though he's, you know, has the potential to be a $10 million player. And will he be a $10 million player if he's not on a team with all these other stars? maybe, but but he also could be like his dad, up and down, up and down, up and down, which is what he's been throughout his career, right? So,
right.
I think that the reality is that the Leafs aren't going to get what they want to from him for him. They're trying to move him. They are still trying to move him, and there comes a point at which you don't just say, well, let's just look at him like he's our rental, like he's a rental, because a season-long rental, because that seems to be where it's heading.
Yeah, but then you let a difference-making player walk away for nothing, and all you get is a little less than $7 million of cap space.
They'll probably get a second-round pick for him, for somebody negotiating his rights that has the inside track on him. That's what I know.
I mean,
they'll
that's
get something for him, but they won't. But they will not have to give up a first-round draft pick to get him. He's already on their team.
No.
And think about it that way. They are a team that has the potential to win the Stanley Cup. They are.
Now, this is the worst-case scenario for Mike Eck. He's never going to accept this.
What?
Nylander not getting traded and not getting traded for a lot.
No. I've
and the Leafs getting knocked out in the first round playoffs.
I've come to grips with it, Russ.
No. I know you've come to grips with it, but you're never going to accept that was the right move.
Oh no, it's not the right move. It's an absolutely
That's what I'm
It's
saying.
the only move they have.
They should have traded
and now it's starting to rain.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Well, the show's almost over.
I have to say, this has been a fun show.
Oh my God, we're gonna end it right there because
this is the Murphy's Law of podcasts today.
We're gonna end it right there.
We really have run the gamut. We've run out of locations. We've run out of bandwidth.
We've had flamethrowers, hedge trimmers, somebody cutting wood, bad internet. We're ending it right there, Russ. We're gonna end it right there.
I think it's a good idea.
For the departed and hopefully alive Eklund and Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.